Welcome to Late Night Story. When the world goes silent and shadows stretch longer, some stories awaken, whispered only to those still awake. So put on your headphones, turn down the lights, and let me guide you through the quiet hours. If you're listening alone, you're exactly where you need to be. If everyone can leave a comment to let me know where you are listening from in the world, don't forget to subscribe before you drift too far into the dark.
Story 1. My wife and I discovered we had bed bugs. The reason they were there made it so much worse. It's definitely a bed bug, the exterminator's voice cracked over the speakerphone. A bed bug, I groaned. Yes. We couldn't identify it at first because the species is so rare. Usually, this one comes from the tropics, like South America. Damn. I muted myself and turned to my wife. How the hell did a tropical bedbug get in our bedroom? I don't know. She shrugged, despondent. Still there. I unmuted. Yeah. If I do the treatment, you'll need to pull all your furniture from the walls and bag up every loose item and store them outside. That way I can spread the fungus along the beds and floorboards. The stuff is non-toxic to humans, but it'll kill the bugs in a few weeks. I shuddered. All I could think about were those parasites crawling over my body, sinking their incisor-like jaws into my arms and legs. How much does it cost? $1,700. What? I nearly passed out. I can come in as early as next week. I turned to my wife. That's a lot of money. I don't think we have much of a choice. We went ahead with the extermination. The next 5 days were chaos. My wife and I bagged every loose item in our bedroom and hauled them outside. We boxed every toy, book, and article of clothing in our toddler's room and stored them in the closet. We pulled back our furniture so that there was enough space on all sides to move freely. It was back-breaking work, but it was necessary to kill the pests. Where are the bugs, Daddy? Our toddler kept saying as we shifted his furniture around. Hiding in the walls. Son, someone's going to come save us. For those who don't know, bed bugs reproduce at an alarming rate. One female can lay up to 7 eggs per day. Eggs can hatch in 9 days. Juveniles can reach maturity and reproduce in 4 weeks. Without any intervention, an infestation will double every 2 weeks. Since my last call with the tech, my wife and I had been bit several times, waking up with painful welts all over our bodies. Even our toddler had been fed on. An infected bump ballooned on his forehead and looked like a third eye. Oh my God, my wife said, rubbing calamine lotion on his wound. Are you okay, sweetie? Yes, Mommy. I can't take this anymore. About halfway through her panic attack, the exterminator called me. How's it going? We're almost done packing. I scratched at a fresh welt on my elbow. We've only got 2 more bags to fill. Sounds like you're doing a good job. Hang on till I get there. The tech arrived at our house on Friday at 10 a.m. Everything ready? Yes. Right this way. We practically pulled him inside. Wow. You've done great. Both of our rooms looked like humans had never lived there. Furniture was stacked on one another like Jenga towers. Every unorganized item had been removed and stored in the garage or closet. Are you here to save us? Our son asked from the hallway. Yes, sir. The technician smiled and ruffled his hair. I'm gonna set you up so that this never happens again. The exterminator moved quickly, planting his fungus along the floorboards and furniture. I watched him work with desperate satisfaction. One of my arms had nearly 12 bites now. There must have been 10 bed bugs in the house, feasting on us every few nights. I imagined them watching from the walls, observing their oncoming demise. By 11:15 a.m., the tech was finished. Y'all should be good now. He gathered his gear. Just slowly start to unpack. The bugs should be dead within a few weeks. Within a month, the bites had stopped. My wife and I could sleep peacefully again. Life was normal, so it seemed. About 6 months into our newfound freedom, I received a call. Mr. S asterisk 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 asterisk. Yes. I work with law office. Did pest control service your house in the past year? Yes, we had bed bugs in March, but they're gone now. You may be entitled to a sizable settlement. What? Can you come by our office? We have something to show you. My wife and son and I arrived at the attorney's that afternoon. I appreciate you coming in on such late notice. The lawyer shook our hands as we settled into a conference room. What's this about? I placed my son on my lap. We've been building a case against a local pest control company for the past 2 years, specifically with one of their technicians. That sounds awful, my wife mused. It's taken us some time, but I think we've gathered enough evidence. For what? Can I ask you something? Do you know how you got bed bugs? My wife and I looked at each other. We'd thought about it, but hadn't pinned down an explanation. You haven't traveled to anywhere tropical or... No. We've been in town for the past 5 years. I admitted. The farthest we've gone is wine country. I understand. Please watch this and tell me what you see. The attorney pulled out her tablet and pressed play. A video popped up of a pest control technician spraying an ordinary backyard. My wife and I leaned close. A hat was pulled over the tech's face, but when he lifted his sprayer to cover the awning, his personage came into view. Oh my God, I said. That's the guy we hired earlier this year. We have hours of similar footage. Why bring us in? Because one of our clients gave us this. She pulled up another video. The camera, which must have been mounted inside of a birdhouse, showed our exterminator spraying outside someone's garage. Nothing unusual. But then, when he reached the side yard, he stooped down and pulled something from his jacket. What is that? My wife asked. The attorney clicked another button and the angle changed. Now we were staring straight on at the tech. He was dumping something out of a tiny plastic bucket. The camera's angle and clarity allowed us to see bed bugs. Hundreds of them, tumbling out like wingless flies. The spot where they landed was on stonework painted white, which made them easier to see. Oh my God, my wife gasped, covering her mouth. The sight of them tumbling over each other, squirming like ants fighting over spilled syrup, made me want to vomit. Apparently, this technician has been dumping these parasites all over town, then servicing his clients to deal with the infestations. Unbelievable, I gasped, so traumatized I could barely breathe. About 1 year later, we received a check in the mail. It was from pest control for $6,000. There had been hundreds of clients impacted in our community. My wife and I had fought for a bigger payout, but the fact that our tech had been caught and was facing consequences meant the world to us. At least he won't be able to do that to anyone else, my wife said. Yeah, at least. That night, I dreamt about those bloodthirsty pests. One crawled up my leg and stopped at my stomach, leaving a soupy red welt. The next morning, I awoke to a battering of knocks at the front door. What the hell is that? The mail. I stumbled to the entryway and peered into the eye hole. A figure was standing with their back to the glass. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and opened the door, seeing a young man with sickly, rash-covered skin. His eyes were fixed into an eerie stare. His lips were locked into a painful grin. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Hello. Without a word, he set a clear plastic box on the ground, then dashed away and disappeared down the street. Hey! I called after him. What is this? Come back. I glanced down at the container. There were countless bed bugs inside, squirming, desperate for a way out. Story 2. I got my daughter a new toy called Feed Me Phoebe. Single mother here, with a daughter that just turned 4 last week. During mornings, she likes to watch TV before I leave work and the babysitter comes over. She sits there, gobbling down cereal and occasionally babbling nonsense. It's adorable, really. To say we're tight on money right now is an understatement. I can barely afford to keep the lights on, but every time I grimace at a new bill in the mail, there she is to pull me out of my storm. Smiling, laughing, my little ball of sunshine. She doesn't have many toys. Not new ones, at least. I typically end up buying her used toys from a messy aisle at Goodwill. But a couple days ago, a commercial popped up on TV. I was in the kitchen cooking breakfast when I heard her yelling for me to come to the living room. I ran out, initially thinking something was wrong, before I saw her pointing at the TV excitedly, spoon forgotten on the floor. Mommy, look. The commercial showed several children talking to a doll, feeding it fake food, dressing it up. I watched for about 20 seconds before it ended, and a choir of children sang, "We love Feed Me Phoebe." I want that toy. I want that toy. Mommy, please, she begged, standing up and practically bouncing on her heels. The toy was slightly high technology given its AI/voice recognition feature, making it around $25. I really didn't have much money to spend, but God, those eyes of hers. And I was getting paid that day. I knelt down, pulling her close, the scent of maple syrup and her hair filling my nose. "Phoebe, huh?" I murmured, tucking a stray curl behind her ear. Her eyes, wide and hopeful, stared back at me. They were the same deep brown as mine, but held a sparkle I sometimes felt I'd lost somewhere along the way. Yes, she talks, Mommy, and I can feed her. Please, please, please. My heart ached. $25 might as well have been $2,500 right now. But then I remembered once again, today was payday. It wouldn't be much after bills, but maybe, just maybe. I hummed, trying to sound thoughtful rather than terrified of my bank balance. She looks like a very special doll, Sweet Pea. Mommy has to go to work now, but I'll think about it, okay? It's a big decision for a talking doll. I gave her a squeeze, hoping the hesitation in my voice wasn't too obvious. I saw the slight flicker of disappointment, but then her face brightened. You'll think about it? Really? Really, I confirmed, kissing the top of her head. Now, let's get you finished with breakfast before Miss Carol gets here, all right? She nodded, a determined little bounce in her step as she went back to her bowl, though I noticed her eyes kept drifting back to the now empty screen where Phoebe had been just moments before. I watched her for a moment, a fierce love swelling in my chest. If I could give her the moon, I would. For now, I'd settle for seeing if I could swing a talking doll. The morning rush was a blur after that. A quick hug from my daughter, a rushed handover with Miss Carol, and then I was out the door, the chill morning air doing little to cool the financial anxieties swirling in my mind. The image of those hopeful brown eyes, though, stayed with me, a tiny, persistent tug on my conscience. It was just past noon when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting another goddamn work email, but it was a text from Miss Carol. Hey, quick update. Your little one is adorable as ever, but she's been going on and on about Feed Me Phoebe since you left. I think you might have a new mission on your hands. I smiled, a genuine, tired smile. Mission accepted, Miss Carol. Mission accepted. The rest of the workday crawled by, each minute ticking slower than the last. My mind kept replaying the commercial, my daughter's beaming face, and Miss Carol's text. When my shift finally ended, I practically flew out the door, making a beeline for the nearest Walmart. The toy aisle was a chaotic symphony of primary colors and plastic. I found the Feed Me Phoebe display, a towering wall of identical dolls, each packaged in a bright pink box. My heart did a little flutter kick of anxiety as I picked one up, the price tag staring back at me. $25. It was a significant chunk of what was left after rent and groceries. But then I imagined those wide, hopeful brown eyes, and, well, the doll was in my cart before I could second-guess myself. The drive home felt endless. I clutched the steering wheel, the pink box rattling softly in the passenger seat, a strange mix of dread and anticipation churning in my stomach. When I finally pulled into our driveway, my daughter was already peeking through the living room window, her face lighting up the moment she saw my car. "Mommy's home!" she shrieked, Miss Carol's gentle laughter following her as she burst out the front door. I met her halfway, kneeling down and pulling the box from behind my back. Her eyes went wide, then impossibly wider. A gasp escaped her lips, and she threw her arms around my neck, squeezing so tight I almost lost my breath. "Oh my gosh, Phoebe, you got her. You really got her." Her joy was infectious, washing away the last vestiges of my financial worry. We spent the next hour on the living room floor. She ripped open the box with an enthusiasm that belied her small size, carefully pulling out the doll. Phoebe had big, blue eyes, rosy cheeks, and a perpetually cheerful smile. She came with a tiny plastic bottle and a spoon. "Say something, Phoebe," my daughter commanded, holding the doll up. Phoebe blinked her big eyes. "Hello, I'm Phoebe. What's your name?" Her sweet, synthesized voice chirped. My daughter giggled, a sound that was pure music to my ears. "I'm Fiona, but Mommy calls me Fifi." I leaned in, ruffling her hair. "That's right, sweet pea. You know, Phoebe kinda sounds like Fifi, doesn't it?" I winked. She considered this, then nodded eagerly. "It does." The rest of the evening was a blur of feeding Phoebe imaginary food, dressing her in her tiny outfit, and listening to her repeat program phrases. My daughter was utterly enchanted. It was worth every penny, I decided, watching her pure, unadulterated happiness. Bedtime came, and my daughter, exhausted but still buzzing with excitement, insisted Phoebe sleep right next to her. I tucked them both in, kissing her forehead. "Sleep tight, my little Fifi. And you too, Phoebe." "Good night, Mommy," she mumbled, already drifting off. I closed her door almost all the way, leaving a sliver open for the nightlight to peek through. I went to the kitchen, tidying up, the quiet hum of the refrigerator the only sound. I was just about to head to my own room when a faint, metallic whisper drifted from my daughter's room. I paused, listening. It was Phoebe's voice, but it sounded different. Not the cheerful, programmed tone from earlier. It was lower, slower, almost conspiratorial. "Fifi," the doll whispered, "do you ever get scared when Mommy leaves?" I cocked an eyebrow. That was a weird question. I crept closer to the door, pressing my ear against the wood. Silence for a moment, then my daughter's sleepy, muffled voice. "Sometimes." "And what do you do then, Fifi?" Phoebe's voice was unervingly soft. Another pause. I wait for her to come back." "But what if she doesn't come back?" the doll asked, the words dripping with an unsettling sweetness. "What if she goes away forever?" My breath hitched in my throat. It's gotta be the program glitching or something. It's AI, after all. Maybe it's just veering off track. Many modern AIs do that. I walked in slowly, giving a nervous smile to my daughter, who looked a bit scared from the doll's question. "I'm gonna turn Phoebe off until the morning so you can get some sleep. Okay, darling?" I said softly. She nodded, too tired to protest. I flipped the off switch and tucked her in, giving her a tired kiss on the forehead before walking slowly out of the room, shutting the door with a soft click. I walked slowly to my own room, the soft click of Fiona's door echoing unervingly in the quiet house. My mind was a whirlwind. What was that? I replayed Phoebe's chilling whispers. What if she goes away forever? What if it wasn't just a glitch? Or the AI veering off track? It felt intentional. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. I got into bed, but sleep was a distant dream. Every rustle of the sheets sounded like a whisper, every creak of the house like a metallic whirring. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, my heart thumping a restless rhythm. Was it just a faulty toy, or was there something more sinister at play? The image of Fiona's wide, scared eyes flashed in my mind. I chastised myself for buying such a thing, for letting my financial worries be overshadowed by a momentary indulgence. The minutes stretched into hours, each one heavier than the last, until finally, Exhaustion, a heavy blanket, pulled me under. The alarm jolted me awake, its cheerful beeping a stark contrast to the lingering unease in my head. I felt groggy and unrest, a slight headache throbbing behind my eyes. I dragged myself out of bed, the memory of last night's incident still fresh. The house was quiet. Fiona must still be asleep. I padded to the kitchen, brewed coffee, and started packing her lunch, moving through the motions of the morning routine on autopilot. The sun was just beginning to peek through the window, casting long, pale shadows across the living room. Just as I was buttering a piece of toast, a small, sleepy figure appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Morning, Mommy," Fiona mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, sweet pea," I replied, forcing a smile. "Sleep well." She nodded, still half asleep. "I'm gonna go play with Phoebe." She turned to head back to her room, her small hand reaching for the doorframe. But in her sleepy haze, she misjudged the distance. Her little finger got caught between the doorframe and the rapidly closing door. "Ow!" She yelped, a sharp, surprised cry. She pulled her hand back, her face crumpling as tears welled in her eyes. "My finger!" I rushed to her side, scooping her up. "Oh, sweetie, let Mommy see." I examined her finger, already red and starting to swell slightly. It wasn't broken, thankfully, but it was clearly painful. I kissed it gently. "Let's get some ice on that. No playing with Phoebe just yet, okay?" She nodded miserably, still sniffling, allowing me to carry her back towards her room, where I knew there was a small first aid kit. After putting ice on her finger for a couple minutes, she calmed down. I gave her a kiss on the forehead. I settled Fiona on the sofa with a cartoon for a few minutes, making sure the ice pack stayed put, then went back to the kitchen to finish packing her lunch and grab my purse. The house felt too quiet again, the kind of quiet that held its breath. I kept glancing toward the living room, a residual knot of anxiety still tight in my stomach. It was just a toy, I told myself. A very expensive, very glitchy toy. As I reached for my car keys, a high-pitched, saccharine voice drifted from the living room. It was Phoebe. The voice was perfectly clear, devoid of the metallic static from the night before, making it all the more unsettling. "Oh, poor sweet Fiona. That nasty door hurt you. Does Phoebe need to kiss the boo-boo on your finger? A special, very big kiss." The words hung in the air, sickeningly sweet. Before Fiona could reply verbally, a sound ripped through the air. Not a tearful whimper, but a sharp, panicked, animalistic scream of pure agony. "Mommy. No. It hurts. Get it off." I dropped the keys, the sound swallowed by the sudden, horrific noise. I sprinted back down the hall, my heart hammering against my ribs, a cold dread flooding my mouth. I burst into the living room. Fiona was sitting on the floor, weeping hysterically, desperately pulling her arm away from the doll. Phoebe was tilted forward, leaning into Fiona's hand. Its plastic face was expressionless, its synthetic eyes wide and blue, but its sophisticated, articulated jaw, the one designed to simulate complex speech and chewing, was clamped down. It had bitten her, but it hadn't just nipped her. There was a sickening, wet crack squelch sound as I watched. The doll's internal motors whirred loudly, working hard against the resistance. Blood, bright arterial red, was pulsing and oozing out around the edges of the doll's mouth, coating the pristine white plastic in a horrific, slick glaze. Bones crunched and snapped under the pressure, and I could see a white nub sticking out from the red. Fiona's index finger was being actively pulverized. The mechanical teeth, designed for lifelike interaction, were now grinding with unfeeling, programmed precision. I could see the sickening result of that grinding. Tiny shards of bone and shredded pink-white tissue were visible, mixing with the thick, coppery blood that dripped onto the carpet. The doll was chewing, its mechanical jaw hinges flexing and straining as it worked its way through flesh and cartilage. The sheer, unthinking brutality of the attack, the cold, whirring mechanism destroying my daughter's body, paralyzed me for a split second. Then, a guttural scream tore itself from my throat, a sound of pure maternal horror. I lunged forward, not thinking, just reacting. My hand slapped blindly against the doll's rigid plastic back, searching frantically for the recessed power switch. My fingers found the tiny nub. Click, The whirring stopped instantly. The jaw went slack. The blue eyes stared blankly. Phoebe released the mangled, ruined stub of Fiona's finger. Fiona didn't stop screaming. She only screamed louder, clutching the oozing, devastated ruin of her hand to her chest. I looked down at the doll's pristine cheek, now streaked with my daughter's blood, and the metallic, coppery smell of the damage filled the air. The doll lay silent, a grotesque, blood-spattered parody of a child. Its off switch flipped, leaving only the sound of my daughter's ragged, agonizing sobs. It was 10 minutes before we arrived at the emergency room. I brought the doll with me, but removed its batteries as I drove shakily. "It's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay," I just kept saying like a damn mantra. She wailed and sobbed in the back seat. I demanded the emergency room staff see us immediately. She was bleeding out, goddamn it. The doctors looked dumbfounded. They couldn't make any goddamn sense of it. There was no reason for the mechanical mouth of a doll to be strong enough to pulverize a human finger. They told me, begrudgingly, that they wouldn't be able to reattach it. But I already knew that. What I saw in the doll's mouth when I pulled it away didn't even resemble a finger anymore. They put her under anesthesia and stitched her finger up. She's left with a nub. A goddamn nub instead of a finger. And she's only 4 years old. It's been a few days since the incident. I've stayed home from work since then, watching over her and pampering her the best I can. I called the company that made the doll today, and it went straight to voicemail. I tried every number of every goddamn factory, location, and HQ they had, and every time it went to voicemail. I'm at a loss. I'm fucking devastated. Fiona's condition has improved significantly, but if I can't stop remembering the sight of her finger being mauled by a goddamn doll, I'm sure she can't stop remembering how it felt. Story 3. My brother's been dead for 3 weeks. He texted me earlier tonight. This situation is absurd, terrifying, and wholly impossible. But it's happening to me, and if possible, I have to tell someone. Anyone. This post might be the only way I can get out what's happening to me. 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks ago. My younger brother, Daniel, he died in a car crash. He wasn't in a vehicle though. It was a drunk driver that caused the accident. The police identified him by the I.D in his bag. We received the call at 6:20 in the evening. Everything that had been found in the backpack of a junior in high school was present in his. Everything except for his phone, which was odd. My mother was devastated, as was my father. I was upset too. The absence of another family member in the house cast a shadow over all of us. A dark, bleak shadow that we couldn't get rid of. When someone close passes away, you try to do everything in your power to preserve their memory. For me, it was texting him. I knew he wouldn't respond, but the fact that the messages went through meant something to me. I wouldn't get texts back, but it gave me a little bit of joy just to be able to text the number. What little happiness I got out of my ritual quickly turned to fear. Tonight, 3 weeks after Daniel's death, I got a text back. I miss you too. Where are you? It was in response to the last text I'd sent him. I love you, Dan. And I miss you. That reply came at 7:25. I didn't want to tell Mom or Dad. They wouldn't believe me. That, and they'd probably think it to be some cruel, untimely joke I was playing. Look, Danny is messaging me back. Isn't it awesome? They'd hate it. I couldn't tell them. At 7:35, after much deliberation, I texted him back. 7:35. What? Is this a joke? Who are you? Why do you have Danny's phone? Why are you doing this? He, or whoever was using the phone, replied seconds after. 7:35. It's me. It's your brother, Danny. I woke up a while ago. My leg hurts, so I can't walk too fast, but I'm making my way back home now. What the hell? I thought. How? As far as I knew, Danny was dead. That was a fact. So, either this was a cruel joke from someone who had managed to get a hold of his phone, or something else was happening. I could only think about that comment regarding the leg. My leg hurts. My leg hurts. His leg hurts. His left leg was pulverized in the accident. How would a person who had just taken his phone know that? Fingers trembling, I typed out another reply. 7:36. What do you mean you're making your way back home? What does that mean? Who are you? I got only one reply after that. For the next hour or so, it was complete radio silence. 7:37. I'm your brother. I'm coming back to you guys. With no idea what to do, I just sat at my desk for the next hour and a half. I kept waiting for a knock at the door or a buzz from my phone, but the 90 minutes I spent in anticipation yielded nothing. That was until 9:07. 9:07. I'm getting close. It's hard to see in the dark. And this leg, it really hurts, but I'm keeping up. What did getting close mean? Was he in the neighborhood? Was he on our street? I deduced that asking specific questions didn't yield me anything helpful, but I asked anyways. It took me a couple minutes to think of what to ask, but the words eventually came out. 9:09. What do you mean? You're getting closer? Where are you? His response frightened me. 9:10. I'm nearby, maybe. That alarmed me. What did nearby mean? I scrambled to get out my room and made my way downstairs. Mom and Dad were usually in bed by 8:30 and asleep by 9, so I didn't need to worry about them questioning anything. We don't live in a big house, so locking all of the doors and windows downstairs wasn't hard. I checked to see that the front door was locked. When I confirmed it was, I turned on the porch light from inside and set up a chair in the middle of the entrance hallway. Since I didn't know what to do at this point, I decided to wait it out. About half an hour later, things had only gotten worse. I'm shaking as I write this, because I think he's here. Or maybe he isn't, but I think he's going to be here soon. I received another text at about 9:38. 9:38. I'm close, I think. I can't quite remember which house is mine. I think I'll look for the light. Fear shot through me like lightning. Our house couldn't have been the only one with lights on at this hour. I unceremoniously leapt out of the chair and slammed my hand into the light switch. I breathed a sigh of relief. That relief was quickly short-lived as I received one of two final texts from my brother. 9:39. I saw the lights go out in a house. I think that's mine. I'm going. I looked down at the words on my phone screen for a moment. No way. He couldn't possibly be referring to this house. I knew I was lying to myself. I went into the kitchen and grabbed one of our knives. I hadn't the slightest clue of what I might have to use it on, but it made me feel a bit safer. Just as I sat down, I felt the stomach-churning sensation of my phone vibrating in my pocket. The rapid, fearful beats of my heart made my chest ache. Hesitantly, I turned on the phone and looked at the most recent and final message I was sent. 9:40. I'm here. For the last 10 minutes, the other side of the door has been completely silent. At least, it was completely silent. As I type this out, knife in hand, I can hear something just outside. Someone is knocking on the door. It sounds like my brother. And he's only saying one thing. Let me in. I need help with my leg. Story 4. Something in the fire. On the highway today, there was a terrible crash. The nightly news said everyone involved had died, but I knew that before their morning segment had even broadcast that day. An upturned SUV split nearly in half, windows blown out to show crooked silhouettes inside, and the Mercedes wedged firmly to its underside. The expensive car was crumpled like a dry soda can. The pavement was replaced by a carpet of glass and steel. It was everywhere. When I slowed to lessen the crunch of debris under my tires, I thought I heard someone, but I could have imagined it. I was dialing 911. The highway was empty. Somehow, it seemed like the only two cars on the early morning road beside me had found a way to snatch tragedy from the jaws of banality. Couldn't be a coincidence. And then the sound, whoosh, and the cozy autumn coloring of dawn turned a violent orange. The Mercedes was burning. The heat of raging gasoline greeted me through my window, and now I was certain I heard someone from the SUV. A cough, or words maybe, but a call for help from beneath the carnage of twisted, dripping metal. I made sure the dispatcher on the other line knew exactly where the accident was. Just after exit 31. "Hurry too," I pleaded, watching the excited flames recede into distant sparks in my rear-view mirror. It don't look so good. I hung up the phone, and I prayed for them the rest of the way to work. According to the news, it appears I went unanswered. I still consider the arguments that you are probably righteously perched atop, the ones that persuaded me to take action as the Lewis house burnt to the ground. The only one there to help. The opportunity to be a hero. The right place and the right time. There's no such thing as coincidence. These people needed help, and God sent me to answer their prayers. I hear them. Now, hear this. A thesis I crafted after witnessing what became of the Lewis family. There's no such thing as coincidence, certainly. There's proof of that everywhere you look. But accidents? What about divine oversight? What if I was actually in the wrong place at the wrong time? What if some bad things are meant to happen? The crash, the house fire, and I was simply an extraneous variable. What if I was a field mouse that ignorantly slipped through a crack in the slaughterhouse doors as the cleavers began to swing? Jesus, what if God has no hand to play in some things? The Lewis lived in my neighborhood, just round the bend. Sweet family, as nuclear as it gets, Mr. and Mrs. Lewis and their little boy and girl. The night of the fire, I woke up in my bed sweating. A little unusual, but the more I tried to fall back asleep, the stronger an irrational thought demanded my attention. Something was out of place. Hard to describe, but everything felt weird. Liminal, like the feeling of an abandoned carnival, dark and defeated, refusing to act the way it was designed. I turned the LED lines of my digital clock towards me and sat up in bed. They traced an impossible number. 2 hours 63 minutes a.m. Downstairs, I shuffled towards the kitchen, imagining how a glass of water would settle my nerves, but paused in front of the ancient grandfather clock. The clock had never seen any issues in my lifetime, but now the minute hand looped over itself, bouncing to and fro across the 12 o'clock mark. Couldn't be an electric issue then. Maybe a magnetic surge? Sometimes you hear about meteors flying too close, when you get neighborhoods that end up with frizzled appliances. Except next to the clock, my mother's potted spring flowers had withered dry. I stepped outside, and the vivacious garden my mom prides upon herself cultivating every year had become a bad Halloween decoration, a graveyard of what seemed to be rotted or moldy stems. It was difficult to tell. Up and down the street, the porch lights that always provided a sense of suburban security after sundown were all snuffed out, and even the sky was empty of its usual stars and moon. When the sound of hooves echoed from down the street, I really began to question my own lucidity. Following the noise with my eyes, I could see emanating from just around the bend of the road a mild glow burgeoning against the midnight skyline of the neighborhood. Instead of recognizing this for what it was, a bad dream, and heading back inside to let the memory fade into a vague feeling of déjà vu that might hit me at a random time, I did something we can attribute to my disturbed sleep and the residual bravado left over from college. If it was a dream, I thought, perhaps it could be an adventure. These whimsies on my mind evaporated after rounding the bend when I saw the Lewis household. It wasn't engulfed yet. I would have never gone inside if it was. Instead, intelligent ribbons of fire snaked around the upper leftmost corner of the house, centralized around the window there. I watched with a stupid open mouth how the flames were spreading inward. It didn't seem interested in following the dry paneling of the house along the second floor and down the siding. Instead, it rolled over itself in ocean waves of scorching heat, holding its position. The bedroom window, surrounded by flame, was bright, and shadows flickered beyond its charred pane. Even outside, the heat stole my breath away. I was vaguely aware that my phone had been ringing longer than it should have on the emergency line with no answer. The whole time the flames remained suspended in place on the house. Then all at once, the invisible force holding it released. There was a scream, a feminine warble, and then the entire upper floor was burning. Happened so fast. Like I had blinked at the perfect time. But I hadn't. I hollered, sprinting to the neighbors' doors and banging frantically, calling out to them, but their windows remained dark and silent despite the ferocious blaze beside them. Why couldn't they hear me? Why wasn't emergency services answering? Someone had to help. There was a family still inside. Now, the reservoir of heroic daydreams overflowed and filled the front of my mind. Realizing, but not yet understanding why no help would come, I started walking, then running across the lawn, up the steps, and then into the Lewis home. I moved quickly, but some images and mental notes remain with me to this day, even as I hurried through the kitchen. The temperature was cool, and the room offered a pretty assortment of hanging utensils, family pictures pinned to the refrigerator, and a fruit bowl asserted proudly next to an electric coffee maker with a tightly wrapped cord draped over its head. Not something to nitpick over, but combined with a noticeable absence of smoke, I imagined that if I were deaf, I'd stake my credibility on there being no need for any sort of alarm inside the house presently. Although, even then I wouldn't have been able to ignore the pungent air wafting like thick cream, carrying not the expected stench of smoke, but expired eggs. Guided by this stench and the screams, those wretched screams that hadn't stopped since I stepped through the door, I found the narrow stairway to the second floor. What had started as a terrible wailing had morphed and gelled into fragmented hysterical sentences now at the bottom of the stairs. Told you I did. There's nothing left to know. The kids. You bastard. The words didn't mean anything to me then, except that I should hurry. Not halfway up the stairs, I stopped. I saw what I thought was just a trick of the eye. There was smoke and fire occupying a great majority of the hallway upstairs, and so it was hard to see. Through the black clouds, a glowing figure walked across the landing. There were no attributes that could be discerned. Arms, legs, face, it was all moot because the thing was only fire. It wasn't some solid mass, but a writhing orgy of burning tendrils in constant movement that you could see right through, twisting amongst each other and separating, then curling and seething and joining again. Despite its constant fluctuation, it remained unmistakably in the outline of some great humanoid thing emitting sparks and cruel pops from its form. In the brief moments before its gaping strides made it disappear further down the hall, I felt the air swell around me, like a balloon threatening to burst. It was already hotter than I ever thought possible, but the wave of heat that came from this thing, the way it branded my scalp and seared the eyebrows and lashes clean off my face in poofs of acrid smoke, it felt alive. Not a second after the figure had passed, another followed, this one with a clearer image, Mrs. Lewis. She scrambled by and was begging, "No, wait, I'm here. Use me, I'm here, use me." In 3 great leaps I cleared the stairs and crouched below the thick smoke coating the second floor. My eyes immediately flooded with salty tears. It was hard to keep them open. Mrs. Lewis was standing in front of an open doorway at the end of the hall. I tried to call out to her, but I coughed instead. She wouldn't move. Mrs. Lewis. I hacked through the heat. The low visibility of the hallway was disorienting, and the heat made it near impossible to move. Mrs. Lewis remained in front of the doorway, not even a twitch in my direction. I called out again, this time frantic and horrified as I watched fire catch the ends of her blouse and quickly eat its way up the fine silk cloth. I inched forward. "Mrs. Lewis, I can grab the kids. The fire, you're on fire." Still, Mrs. Lewis stood gazing into the room. With slow mechanical movement, her hands went over her head and gathered clumps of hair in tight vice-like grips, and with agonizing force, began to tear it from her scalp. Knotted tangles of hair dropped to her feet, quickly devoured by the flames surrounding her. I wish that she would have flinched or grimaced, or at least shrieked when the flesh on her legs dripped like viscous wax, bubbling and pooling around her heels. I wish she at least screamed instead of moaned like she did. Her eyes bulged like she was being squeezed, and her mouth was open and she moaned. She was a chorus of insanity, the moan of a child witnessing their dog struck by a car, the last shreds of hope escaping a husband beside his cancer-rotted wife, the mania of a mother lowering a miniature casket into the ground. Mrs. Lewis was all of these and more, yanking, tearing, ripping until the last strand was wrenched from her cranium, and only flames danced atop her exposed skull. Her hands fell to her sides, her charred, hairless head lowered, and she marched thoughtlessly into the room. The door shut behind her, and then the flames hiccuped, and the world exploded. I woke up to a silent black sky behind a floating curtain of smoke. I was outside in someone's arms. It took a few seconds blinking and squinting before I could study my savior, and even longer before a confused recognition struck me. How could this be? He's hairless, it's all gone. The beautiful silver locks atop his head, the sculpted facial hair, and the dark eyebrows that made even the college girl struggle to hold eye contact. The distinguishing aqua blue irises were beady mole pupils now, desperately searching this way and that, and then back to the blaze consuming his house. No longer charming, intelligent, witty, in shape and cool, but now pathetic and naked. His skin sagged and his arms shook carrying my weight. He gasped abrupt wheezes of air through his dry mouth, decorated by a single rotten tooth left over from the flashy white smile he was so proud of. Mr. Lewis staggered across his yard, following our long shadows away from the crumbling house. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear. When the ringing in my ears finally quieted, I was beginning to catch tidbits of what Mr. Lewis was saying. "Forgive me, my trespasses, like I forgive the trespassers against me. Oh, John, and lead me away from temptation. Deliver me from evil." John, you can't even get the words right. Would you like me to finish them? For thine is the kingdom. You have chosen your kingdom, the power, the glory, forever. Amen. I tumbled to the grass as Lewis collapsed to his knees. Those words. They weren't the product of warm air pushed through vocal cords. They were just simply there, dense, brought about by the impenetrable smoke. They hurt my ears and echoed like they came from the depths of a cave. They held my eyes closed and forced me to listen. Lewis sounded like a child who'd lost a card game. Indignant, beaten, he said, "I've given you far more than you've asked. Do you offer him as well? Will it help? Will he satisfy you?" A pressure on my neck bore down on me, cutting off the air. I offered my own silent prayers to any deity aware of me. "It is your name, John Lewis, that is on my list. Those who sought barter with the abyss know of a price etched in blood. We will take your bribes and still collect on your debt. You have damned your blood of your own accord, and your prescribed suffering only increases. They wait screaming for you in the furnace." The pressure disappeared. I watched through slits in my eyes. Poor Lewis rose to his feet. He wandered towards his house, towards a living fire that ate his home. Something waited for him on the doorstep, wrapped in flames. Something draped in hooks and chains, blowing black smoke from its nostrils and drooling lava from its pointed teeth. They stepped through the door together, and behind them it shut. Not a floorboard nor a scrap of dry wall remained. Somehow no one noticed the destruction of the Lewis home until it was a smoldering heap in the brown grass. The happy family that brought baked mac and cheese to the monthly block party and extra folding chairs to the Park District soccer games just in case were already fading memories now. The neighborhood rehearsed, huddled in their church masses, and during the little chats they stopped to have while they walked their dogs. "Oh, a tragedy all right," they moaned, shaking their chins and rubbing their foreheads. "And the kids too. Didn't deserve it any more than the rest of us." But everyone seemed to be a little looser around the joints. Old Miss Fay, a house over from the Lewis, had never enjoyed her neighbors and became isolated after her cat had turned up skinned and drained, hanging by its tail from a tree. She'd accused the Lewis. Said she'd heard the strange languages they sang in after sunset. No one believed her, of course. The Lewis had what every family in the neighborhood wanted. A week ago, there was a beautiful family absent of jealousy or internal strife, a freshly waxed Porsche in the driveway, and the admiration of the community. Now, Ms. Fay hummed and poured water over freshly planted lilies. My mother had just finished redesigning her own new garden. The smoke I inhaled scarred my lungs. After that day, I no longer feel like a young man anymore, much less act like one. I feel like the mouse. Be wary, saving those who are drowning lest you find yourself at the bottom of the ocean with them. Story 5. I went hitchhiking alone in the Alps as a young man. The thing I met there has followed me ever since. So this happened to me over 4 decades ago. I went hitchhiking alone in the Valais Alps as a late birthday gift to myself. I was a lot more adventurous in those days, back before age and responsibilities could tether me down. The Valais Alps were the latest in a long line of achievements, and the largest by far. Remote, rugged, with a long history of death, Exactly what an aspiring adventurer like myself relished. And at more than 6,000 feet above sea level, it was everything I was looking for and more. The trip itself had started out pretty much as expected. I made my way across the Gratskrat, my newly purchased hiking boots putting in good work as I followed along the ridgeline. For the longest time, I hiked alone. In fact, except for the occasional goat or two, it was just me and the mountains and God. It was towards the end of the third day that I first began to suspect something was off. I'd been navigating a particularly hairy pass, when on an off chance my eyes had flitted to the valley floor below, and I'd seen a figure standing there watching me. It had been several hundred feet away, little more than a speck. The sudden sight of it had caused me to flinch. Being so remote, you just don't expect to see anybody else out here. When my surprise had passed, I raised a hand in a wave. However, the figure did not wave back. Didn't move at all, in fact, and it was only then that I realized what it was I was looking at. To this day, I don't know what compelled me to go take a closer look. I reached it a good 40 minutes later. It was about 6 feet tall, dressed in a long purple coat and faded gray slacks. Reams of straw poked out from within its tattered collar, below which a red handkerchief lay loosely tied, faded by the sun. A block of carved wood comprised its head, with little charcoal smears for eyes. Looking down, I saw a set of rosary beads had been draped over its shoulders, along with something else that I didn't recognize, but that looked to be made out of little intertwined twigs and sticks. Some kind of what totem? I'd learned about them during my time with the Valais villagers the day before. The Bergführer called them Stand Manly, or Little Standing Man. Rudimentary effigies intended as surrogate sacrifices for the ancient gods that lived on the mountain. The idea was that by creating these proxy offerings, you could effectively trick the gods into allowing you safe passage. Or at least so the story went. Without thinking, I reached out and unhooked the totem from its shoulders. I knew it was wrong to take it. The villagers had warned me as much, that to interfere with them in any way would bring bad luck. But of course, that was just superstition. And whatever else I may have been, superstitious I was not. And so, I had continued on with my hike. And by that night I'd all but forgotten about the little standing man. But then, the following day, while breasting a snow-blasted ridgeline just east of the pass, I'd seen another one. I'd had my head down at the time, my attention focused fixedly on my feet, when I'd looked up suddenly to find another of the Stand Manly standing propped no more than 10 feet away from where I stood. I'd been so focused on where I was walking, I hadn't spotted the figure until I was practically right on top of it, and the sudden sight of it almost gave me a heart attack. Once my heart had stopped trying to beat itself out of my chest, I walked over for a better look, and it was as I got closer that an alarming thought suddenly occurred to me. No, not another one. This is the same one from yesterday. It was impossible, of course. Since spotting the Stand Manly yesterday, I'd traveled approximately 12 miles. No way it could be the same one. And yet, as I neared, I thought I recognized the dark smears of its eyes, the ugly, jagged slash of its mouth. I stared dumbfounded at it a moment, unease settling in, just as a fierce wind began to whistle down from the ridge above, almost as if to mark the occasion. Though I had come here for the express purposes of being by myself, I had up until that point yet to feel truly alone. But standing there under the Stand Manly's gaze, I became painfully aware just how isolated I was. Were something to happen to me way out here, there would be nobody to call for help. I would be on my own. That night, sleep came uneasy. I dreamed I was in a field of enormous white lilies. The standing thing stood propped in the center, a grotesque blemish on an otherwise idyllic scene. But then I blinked, and in that way of dreams, suddenly I was the standing thing. Strapped to a pole, hands and feet gone, reams of bloody straw jutting out from the stumps of where they'd been, my eyeless face fixed in a silent death scream. I jolted awake to the sound of rain lashing my tent. A fierce storm had rolled in while I slept, the combination of wind and rain a hellish symphony for my waking brain, but it wasn't that which had roused me. I sat up straight in my sleeping bag, panicked and alert, and not sure exactly why. Then I heard it again, a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled over dirt, audible even over the hiss of the rain. Scryage, scryage, scryage. Every part of me froze. I sat there in the dark, my sleeping bag pulled tight around me, feeling more afraid than I'd ever been as a single thought echoed around inside my skull. It's him. It's the Stand Manly. He's come for his totem. I knew it was ridiculous. The notion that the standing thing had followed me, that it had dragged itself all these miles. It was nonsense. The stuff of fantasy. Hello. The sound suddenly stopped. Summoning all my courage, I leaned forward and gently pried open the tent flap. Nothing. Just sheets of freezing rain and sleet, and the vague outlines of rocks and scree in the dark. Knowing I wouldn't be able to sleep again until I checked, I quickly threw on some clothes and fumbled my way out of the tent. The rain soaked me almost at once as I shone my flashlight around, the light cutting through the deluge ahead like a white blade through a black curtain. I was a good 20 yards away from my tent when I happened to shine the beam down, my eyes immediately falling on the deep gouge in the dirt by my feet, and I gasped, almost falling backwards in my surprise. Oh, no way. That's impossible. Like a man in a dream, I shone the flashlight in the direction the gouge was heading, following it back up towards my tent, my hands shaking. To this day, I struggle to describe exactly what I saw next. There had been a flash of purple. The beam caught on it for the briefest of instants. The sodden folds of a long coat, plastered tight to something that shouldn't have been there, that couldn't have been, standing propped now between me and my tent. The sight of it broke something inside me. I made a noise like a kicked dog, then turned and started running back down the ridgeline, boots slipping and skidding on the waterlogged dirt, almost spilling me over multiple times as I fought to put as much distance between me and the standing thing as possible. I ran, heedless of the danger, my entire body consumed only with the need to get clear, to get away. It was only by sheer luck that I spotted the pillbox. I'd been running at near full sprint, flashlight swinging wildly through the darkness until finally my foot had caught on a patch of loose shale, and I'd skidded sideways, slamming hard on my side and immediately knocking the wind out of me. When I could breathe again, I'd made to pick myself up, and it was then that I'd spotted it, a block of thick concrete, jutting out from the side of the mountain to my right. Some kind of old, military bunker. I threw myself at it at once, passing under the thick concrete awning that comprised its entrance, my flashlight illuminating thick cobwebs and dust. The reek of mildew hit me as I stumbled further inside, unsure of where I was going, compelled only by the urge to get as far away as possible. I found a corner and quickly switched off the light. I hunkered there in the dark, soaked and shivering, staring back the way I'd come. I felt feverish with terror. To make matters worse, at some point I'd apparently also split my palm, the hot sting throbbing maddeningly as fresh blood slicked my fingers, making gripping the flashlight difficult. I tried to make sense of what I had just seen. Could it be it had been there the whole time? Only given how tired I was by the time I'd come to set up camp, I'd somehow completely overlooked it? Hell, was that even possible? I continued to stand there, panting and shaking, the only sounds the hiss of the rain, coupled with my own panicked breathing. But then, I heard it again. Scryage, 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 coming from just outside. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. At the same time, the flashlight slipped from my grasp, clattering on the pillbox's hard concrete floor a moment before rolling off into darkness. I immediately dove after it, hands pawing at the cold floor. But it was useless. The flashlight was lost. Panicked, I crawled into the nearest corner and made myself as small as I could. The dragging sound grew steadily louder and louder, until finally it was right across the room from me, though I of course couldn't see it. Couldn't see anything at all. The smell of what might have been old, sodden straw filled the space, heady and overwhelming, so strong I could almost taste it. Then, the dragging suddenly stopped. I held my hands over my mouth and waited, but the sound did not resume. A terrible montage of possibilities flashed across my mind, each one more horrific than the last, and all at once I was glad for the darkness, as to see the thing that stood now across the space from me would surely drive me mad. I fumbled for the totem in my pocket. Here, just take it. I threw it across the room. There was no clatter, no sound of the totem landing, just the indifferent sound of the rain falling outside, and for a moment I wondered if I really had gone mad, after all. My thoughts were interrupted as a single bout of lightning flashed outside, and in the momentary light I saw the standing figure propped with its face now less than 6 inches from my own. I do not recall much of what happened next. The bergführer found me the very next morning, propped barely conscious next to a slab of moss-covered rock. I'd run through the night until my body had given out, and in the process contracted a pretty severe case of exposure-induced hypothermia, none of which I recall. The last thing I remember is turning to shoot one final glance back up at the pillbox, finding the stand Manly standing propped in front of its entrance, watching me as I fled, an image that haunts me to this very day. That was over 40 years ago. Every year since then, on my birthday, it visits me. I find them everywhere, on my porch, the hood of my car, my windowsill. Little trinkets made of intertwined twigs and sticks. I know why, of course. It's to remind me that it hasn't forgotten, that it isn't over. You took it. Now it's yours. I'm sick, lung cancer. This will be my last birthday. I sit and stare out at the darkness from my hospice room window. I think the stand Manly will come for me tonight. Story 6. A demon has been trying to communicate with me every night. It was only today, however, when it finally completed its message. Okay, if it were up to me, a demon wouldn't be cutting open into my shoulder every night. Although, if it were also up to me, I wouldn't be spending the eve of my 17th birthday boxed up in a sleep clinic. So I guess we can't always get what we want. To Sleep and Sound's credit, however, it was one of the more comfortable clinics I'd been to in the past year. For one, it nested within the cushy confines of a literal mansion, a dream really, which should have already made me feel like a princess. The doctor's office itself was just as grand, resembling those old Victorian parlors I liked sketching as a kid back home in Annapolis. The many bookcases and fancy clocks created a rather distinct ambience, a more welcoming one than the other ones I'd been to. A series of kaleidoscopic paintings graced the walls, only making the setting more vibrant, as did the drapes rippling down like waterfalls in nearly all four corners of the room. The fireplace's sweeping shine even managed to reach the plush armchair I occupied, warm and kindly as if they were an old friend. But it didn't feel very friendly. In fact, the room appeared empty, hollow, dead. I would have maybe, just maybe, been able to power through if the dark mist hadn't returned, the mist you'd expect to loom over graveyards or curl around headstones and frost out all your sense of worth. It had wrapped around me like icy links of steel, its cold permeating through my skin and creeping upward, making my teeth chatter, and giving me those dreaded tremors. I couldn't let the cold reach my eyes. I couldn't let it glaze them over and distract me from the root cause of all this misery. The object from my nightmares, the mirror. Despite its missing entourage of cracks and vines, it was a mirror nonetheless, hanging near one of the bookcases in all its gloomed glory. It served as a haunting reminder for the nights I'd suffered through, and with it came the mist. The guaranteed chill that'd shoot up my spine. Although that wasn't what struck fear into my heart, no. It was that wretched spawn of Satan which followed. A single earbud unevenly blared music from my old beat-up iPod as I quickly glanced at the mirror's owner, waiting for him to say something. I couldn't bear the silence any longer. That's when the mist had the strongest hold on me. But nothing. The doctor still sat comfortably in his own armchair, combing through a labyrinth of old notes, his soft, doe-like eyes perusing, his fingers stroking the ends of his salt and pepper beard, his calm, collected demeanor somehow persevering as he soaked in the horrors secreting from the pages. This man, Dr. Yusuf Mustafa, was unfortunately my last hope. If one of the best somnologists in the country couldn't save me, no one could. Papa had to quite literally scrape up the last of our savings to even afford this first consultation. Yet my heart ached at the thought. Here I was, souring, moaning, complaining, while my father plugged away like a workhorse to whisk me from clinic to clinic. The mist grew more sinister as the guilt tore me up from the inside, and my eyes naturally snapped back to the mirror. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the demon had its way with me. No, I thought hurriedly. This isn't productive. Come on, happy thoughts, Sophia. There have to be happier things to think about than the evil sleep monster, right? Luckily, I didn't have to find these so-called happy thoughts, because Dr. Mustafa had finally cleared his throat, jolting me out of my frigid trance. Sophia Ruiz, yes? Why yeah, that's me, I said, forcing myself to focus on the doctor again. The name sounded foreign, almost like it didn't belong to me. Sophia Ruiz. Soon to be 17 years old, I believe, Dr. Mustafa said with a smile as he neatly tucked away the papers back into the hefty file, setting it aside. Any plans for the big day? Nope. Yup, I said. Lots. Pancakes, a few pedicures, maybe a surprise party. I mean, obviously, I don't know anything because it's a surprise, but I'll definitely act surprised when they surprise me. With the, surprise party. Smooth. Dr. Mustafa's smile only widened, however. Good, good. In case this consultation runs short, although it is quite late already, a very happy birthday from our side. If you'd like, you can grab an extra peppermint or two from the front desk afterward. I tried to return the smile, but it probably came out as a pained grimace. Right, will do. Thanks. You're very welcome, Ms. Ruiz, the doctor said before adjusting his sleeves in an almost businesslike fashion. So, let's begin, shall we? How familiar are you with sleep paralysis? Oh, very familiar. I shifted uncomfortably in the armchair, fidgeting with my iPod. It's not exactly fun. Basically hell, but 1,000 times worse. You can't move, can't breathe. Hallucinations. Indeed. I understand these symptoms resonate with you. Sure. And what is your experience, if you don't mind me asking? What do you see? Things I feel like I shouldn't be seeing, I said, trying to construct my answer in a way that wouldn't melt the doctor's brain from the get-go. Something told me colleges wouldn't accept manslaughter as an extracurricular. You know, like those beheading videos floating around online, or when you accidentally stumble upon your parents. I resisted the urge to physically demonstrate the act using my fingers. Procreating. EW. Procreating. Dr. Mustafa furrowed his eyebrows. My apologies, but I'm having a hard time following. Look, I said, squeezing my eyes shut. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know if you're going to believe me. You're probably going to say it's all in my head. It's an abstraction of grief, a manifestation of my trauma or whatever. I stole a quick glance at the mirror. But, hey, don't worry, I know my mother's gone. If she was here, she would be here, right? But this isn't about her, it's something way beyond that. Something different. Something real. I didn't dare break the uncomfortable silence that followed. I kept using my iPod's click wheel to dial the volume up and down, reducing Bret Michaels' masterpiece of a bridge into a jumbled mess as Dr. Mustafa did nothing but pensively stroke the ends of his beard again. I half expected him to turn his back on me then like the others had. Oh, just try and stay calm. Deep breaths like the therapist lady suggested. That's right. In and out. You know, Ms. Ruiz, the doctor finally said, and my heart skipped a beat. I've always tried to adhere to one simple principle. Strive to be a father first and a doctor second. He gestured at a framed picture to his side. A sharp sensation stabbed at my stomach, the cold now worse than before. The toddler in the picture sported a baggy cowgirl's outfit, her pigtails barely peeking their way out of the straw hat and her delicate little fingers clutching onto a pumpkin bursting with candy. It wasn't the costume or even the pumpkin which had snared my attention, but her smile. I had a nasty feeling that this smile didn't last. Dr. Mustafa continued to gaze at the picture wistfully. You see, you learn more as a parent than you ever could otherwise. Especially when it comes to understanding people. Their ups and downs, their hopes and aspirations, their greatest fears, everything. There's a reason why so many of my patients continue to seek help from us here at Sleep and Sound. They don't seek just a diagnosis, but a solution. Medication can help, but the solution itself always lies up here. He tapped his temple with a fountain pen. And helping the patient find it is only possible if we truly understand them. So, of course, I will believe you as I've seen it all in the 19 years I've been practicing somnology. Trust me, I don't have a choice but to believe you if we are to find your solution. Another stretch of silence. But this time, however, it wasn't as uncomfortable. I stopped messing around with the iPod, making full, long-lasting eye contact with the doctor for the first time. He didn't just sound like he believed the words coming out of his mouth. No, he actually looked like he did. That look was rare. So rare, in fact, that I'd never seen it chiseled upon any of my other doctors' faces before. On the off chance Dr. Mustafa was faking it, props to the guy. Seriously, if this somnology thing didn't work out, Hollywood would make the perfect safety net. Oh, I said, finally reaching toward my buzzing earbud, killing the music. Wait, seriously? You're being 100% serious right now? Like, I mean, serious. Of course I am. I certainly can't help a patient I don't have faith in, can I? Right, good point. I hesitated. Well, thanks. That means a lot then. Dr. Mustafa smiled. My pleasure. A small smile began to tug at the ends of my lips too. So does this mean that big brain of yours has already cooked up a potential theory or two? Seeing as you believe me and all. I'm afraid it's a little premature for that, Dr. Mustafa said with a laugh, fixing the pen near the top of his notepad. But we can start from the beginning. I'm assuming you know when paralysis should usually set in. Either before falling asleep or waking up. Precisely, I repeated. But that's not when I get them. It's always from 3 to 3:03 in the morning as per your records, Dr. Mustafa said. Which is strange because you're neither falling asleep nor waking up then. Plus, the consistent nature of the condition is highly abnormal. Sleep paralysis shouldn't be this precise in its timings. Hali freaking Luja. A colossal wave of relief spread through my body, distracting me from the biting mist and swaddling me like a blanket. Finally, someone was listening. Finally, someone understood. Again, if the doctor was faking it, I wouldn't be surprised to see him star in the next big medical drama that sweeps the nation. Wrapped up in my newfound jubilation, I didn't even realize the doctor was talking again, however. The mechanics of the paralysis are certainly interesting, but what I think I'm most curious about are these unexplained injuries noted in your medical file. Dr. Mustafa looked up from his notepad. Mind if I take a look? And that's when I heard the clocks chime, a resounding echo thumping near the back of my mind, and I regretted parting ways with my earbuds at once. Feelings of comfort transformed into a burgeoning sense of foreboding, crawling its way down my throat and knotting my stomach into bowlines. The mist, the one single chime, and then I could almost feel the demon's fingernails burrowing into my skin. There it was. The real object of my nightmares. A grimy mirror, fracturing, smothered by a gnarl of wilting vines. Ms. Ruiz. The mirror vanished. I was in the office, sitting in front of Dr. Mustafa. He regarded me with an admittedly valid look of concern. I blinked a couple times before speaking. Sorry. I spaced out for a second. What were you saying? Well, I was saying, the doctor continued, eyebrows raised, that I wanted to see the injuries described in your records. The ones on your left shoulder. Right. Injuries. My fingers inched toward the infamous shoulder. The genesis of it all, exhibiting a symptom doctors were always quick to dismiss. I couldn't even blame them. There wasn't an explanation in the millions of hours they suffered through in med school that could begin to rationalize this phenomenon. You don't have to if you're unsure, Dr. Mustafa said, as if he could read my mind. What you wish to disclose is up to you. However, it might be helpful from a medical standpoint to have the full picture. And no, I croaked. I can show you, it's just a little sensitive, I guess. I promise I'll be careful. Dr. Mustafa got to his feet. Roll up your sleeve whenever you're ready. I did as instructed, albeit somewhat reluctantly. I really was an idiot. Sure, the doctor may have believed me up till now, but after seeing the injuries, there was no way he'd continue to, right? I pulled Mama's old Husker Du hoodie over my head and tossed it onto a nearby fainting couch and rolled up the left sleeve of my t-shirt. I couldn't help but side-eye the mirror again, waiting for the demon to make its appearance. Waiting for it to beg, plead, claw its way out to stop Dr. Mustafa before he saw, before he believed. There was an unexpected click and a beam of light flashed in front of my face, forcing my eyelids shut. Jesus. Sorry about that, Dr. Mustafa muttered, and the light dimmed. I allowed my eyes to open a little, red spots continuing to blast through my vision as the doctor's face trickled back into focus. Standing nearby, he continued tinkering with the only modern appliance in the room. an LED lamp. That should do it, he grunted once the lamp stopped freaking out. My eyes fixed themselves on the carpet again. So, can you see them? Just give me a moment, Dr. Mustafa said, leaning in closer. What is it? My heart pumped faster. I've never seen scars like these before, the doctor whispered, even closer now. Especially in this configuration. They look like letters. I finished the sentence. Yeah, I know. What did you say has been attacking you again, Ms. Ruiz? I pursed my lips. I don't think I did say. Not yet anyway. Your file mentioned a monster. Did this monster play a part in inflicting these injuries? Another flash. The mirror. But it wasn't exactly my reflection staring back at me through the cracks and vines. A flickering figure. Its nose like mine, but crooked. Its hair like mine, but darker, choppier, filthy and matted. Its mouth like mine, but caked with dried blood. Fangs in place of human teeth. Yellow foam oozing out from in between and razor-sharp talons germinating from its fingers. Its bloody, paper-thin eyes splashed with the same shade of terror as my own. The smell of rotten eggs infiltrated my nostrils, like it always did whenever it was close. Demon. I'd snapped myself out of the memory. My nails dug into either side of the armchair, the acrylics tearing their way into the upholstery threading. I was shivering much worse than before. Sorry, I call it a demon, but not important. At first, I thought it was just a nightmare. A recurring one. The demon would stand there, staring at me, lashing out only toward the end. Its arm would phase through the glass and then I'd wake up. In the morning, when my alarm goes off. That's how it started anyway. And then what did it become? Real, I said, having to clamp my teeth together to stop them from chattering. If I'd been feeling cold before, it was nothing compared to the snowstorm I was experiencing now. Real. Dr. Mustafa repeated. His voice was so soft that I could almost hear his heartbeat. Yeah, I said, and the muscles in my jaw tightened. I didn't notice them initially, but the scratches were, beginning to show up here. In the real world. Little baby scars that appeared later in the day and faded slightly the next. It took 7 weeks before the first letter was complete. An H. I thought it was a coincidence until the demon finished hacking away the second letter 3 months later. Then the third. Now, almost the fourth. Okay, this had to be it. Dr. Mustafa would have to be insane to buy into anything I'd said. Every doctor who'd seen the scars up till now thought the odd configurations were my own doing. They insisted therapy would be my best bet, that it had been my mother's untimely, horrifying passing which royally screwed me up. I knew why they thought that. It was because of the word constructed out of the disarray of scratches. But these letters, Dr. Mustafa said in the same hushed tone, they look like they spell out. I turned to look at the doctor, stomach churning, and gave a weak nod. Help. I'll be back with another update soon. Promise. Story 7. My mother passed and I still follow her little rituals. Knock, knock, knock. I drag myself out of bed and tap the wall above me. 3 times. The plaster is cold under my knuckles, and the echo hums like the house is listening. Mum used to say it didn't like surprises. Slippers on. Bed made, corners tight, sheet smooth. Pillows must touch at the corners. Window open. Door open. Closet check. Check again. Open, shut, pause. Open, shut, move on. I sigh as I approach the door. Light on. Up. Then to the window again. Curtains pulled halfway, then fully, then half again. The folds have to line up. I run my finger along the sill for 10 seconds. Dust gathers beneath my nail. I wipe it away after counting out loud. The floorboards creak as I step into the hallway. I count each one. 7. Always 7. If I don't hear the creaks, I start again. The bathroom mirror waits for me, fogged though the air is cold. I breathe on it and draw a small circle before stepping into the shower for 3 minutes. 2 cold, 1 hot. The steam frames my circle in the mirror. I stare at it. My reflection looks tired. I whisper good morning to her, then wipe the glass clean. The streaks have to fade evenly. In the kitchen, everything feels quieter. The hum of the fridge, the soft scrape of the chair against tile. I make tea in the same mug, with the same teaspoon. The water must boil first, but stop just before the bubbles. No steam. Then pour. Wait 3 breaths before adding the milk. The spoon must rest straight across the rim when I'm done stirring. I set the mug down and walk to the sink. I take the cup from the bench and place it in the sink. It hadn't been used, but it had to be there. Now the tap has to run. Cold first, then hot, then cold again. I let it flow as I sip my tea. After 10 mouthfuls, I turn off the water and let the quiet fill the room. The clock ticks in the next room. I count 6 seconds, then listen for the creak above me. The ceiling always answers with one soft pop, like a sigh. Only then can I breathe. Mum used to say the house doesn't like surprises. She would whisper it every morning, soft enough that I thought she was talking to the walls. After doing my makeup, I grabbed my coat, opened the front door, and carried her quiet insistence with me. My phone vibrates. I smile at the movement because I know exactly who it is. Meet you at the usual place, babe? Absolutely. Laughing face. The street feels alive in a way the house never does. Cars hum in the distance, a dog barks somewhere behind a fence, and the sound of my shoes on the pavement feels light. I catch a rhythm in the tapping. I almost want to match it, then shake my head. It passes. By the time I reach the cafe, the morning finally feels ordinary. My head isn't counting. The folds, the water, the creaks. They all stay behind the door. I let myself smile at the reflection in the glass, letting the thoughts of Luke perk me up. He's already there, near the window, that lopsided grin he can't hide. "Hey," he says, standing to kiss my cheek. "You look good." Do I? I smile back. "You seem tired. Late night." He stifles a yawn. "Work stuff." We sit, the usual spot. His black coffee arrives while I get my latte. The barista knows our order now and makes it without our input. She winks at the both of us playfully as Luke hands her cash. "How's the house?" Luke asks once we've settled. "Gotten any better since Mum?" I stir my drink slowly. "The same still." I sigh. A pause. A small, private memory surfaces. Mum standing by the kettle, turning it off before it fully boils. I shake it away. He reaches over, hand covering mine. "Okay, I won't talk about her. What about you? Are you okay?" "Yeah," I say, letting the feeling pass through me. Fleeting. It's hard. Definitely quieter now. An employee taps from the counter, making me catch my breath for a second. 1, 2, 3. I let it go. Luke's hand is still there. I just follow my routines. "Feels like she's still there sometimes," I say quietly. "Wait. As in like a morning routine?" His brow furrows, curiosity mixed with concern. "Yeah." I trace the rim of my mug, letting the warmth steady me. "She made me do it. I've always done it. I think it's OCD." Luke blinks, surprised. "You think?" I nod, shrugging. "Obsessive-compulsive disorder. That's what it feels like to me. Counting, aligning, checking. It's all too familiar." He leans back, silent for a moment, letting my words sink in. "So it's not just like making your bed then having your toast?" I shake my head, almost embarrassed. "Not really. It's a lot more than that." I glance at him, letting the pause speak for me. I look at the lovely man in front of me, noticing the way he watches me, the way his eyes soften but his mind is clearly racing. I still struggle to fathom life without him, even though it's only been a few months. His mouth begins to move again. Okay, I've never noticed it out here. Not at work or here, Luke says, brow furrowed. No, I reply, stirring my latte. It's at home. Only at home. I don't understand. Is it just the morning? I shake my head, feeling the memory grip me. Night as well. I haven't slept at another person's house in, well, I don't know how long. One time, I snuck out and tried to stay at a friend's place, but by the time I got there, I had to go home. I didn't do the thing. He studies me quietly, his hand still over mine. The thing. The routines. The counting, the aligning. It's not optional. If I don't do it, I feel wrong. I can't sleep, I can't eat. I have to do it. I look down at my mug, tracing the rim. That's why you only see me during the day. I have to do it. Luke leans back, his chair creaking as it rocks gently. My leg bounces steadily, betraying the tension I try to hide. You know, if you want, you could stay at my place tonight. He offers. My heart skips. I look up at him, surprised. I don't know. I just said that. His hand steadies my vibrating thigh, and I flutter. Don't worry. I'll help you. Make sure you're safe. You don't have to go home and do the things if you don't want to. His other hand tightens over mine, gentle but grounding. A warmth spreads through me, almost making me forget the counting, the aligning, the rituals. I can't help the little smile that spreads across my face. You do that. Of course, he says softly. I just want you to feel normal for once. No routines, no panic, no rules. I bite my lip, trying to steady my racing heart. The thought of being somewhere else, with him, even just for one night, makes me swoon inside. Almost like I could belong somewhere else. Then his tone shifts, hesitant but determined. Maybe, after tonight, you could try skipping one small thing. Just one. See how it feels. I freeze. The idea stabs into me like a knife. My fingers tighten around the mug. Skip something. Yeah, he says, gentle, coaxing. Nothing crazy. Just break the pattern, even a little. You might see it's not as bad as it feels. I swallow hard. My chest tightens. My mind flashes through countless mornings and nights. The ceiling creaks, the mirror, the doors, the lights. The house would be unattended. It needs me. Then I glance at him again, at the concern in his eyes, the soft curve of his mouth, and my chest softens. I want to trust him. I want to try, just this once. The day passes almost too quickly. With Luke, time feels soft and forgiving. I can sit without counting, touch without aligning, breathe without checking. But it seems over before I can truly enjoy it, the thought of going home lingering in the back of my mind. As we arrive at his apartment, I take in its colors, its smell and style. I smile again in genuine happiness seeing someone else's residence. He hands me a spoon unexpectedly, and I place it down in surprise. See, he says, grinning when I leave it tilted at an angle on the counter. You're fine. My smile begins to fade as the unease tugs at me. The small freedoms feel dangerous, almost indulgent. I try to vent the situation to him. I tell him about Mum, the ritual she demanded, the way they filled every morning and night. The house doesn't like surprises, she would always say. At night, I murmur, Mum would make me do it all again. Washing, lights, doors, mirrors, beds. Not just chores, but silly things like placing one glass on the bench, then moving it after 20 seconds. Counting the creak of the boards 7 times. Tapping the walls, tracing the windowsill. Water on, water off. 2 minutes cold, 1 hot. And if I didn't, the feeling would start. The horrible, crawling, pressing feeling. He reaches for my hand, gentle and coaxing, And now you're letting it rest. Just for today, he says. Just this one day. I nod, warmed by his presence. The thought of staying feels intoxicating. His fingers brush through my hair, linger along my wrist. His smile, the curve of his mouth, the way he leans in. It makes my chest ache in a way that has nothing to do with panic. I could stay here. I swallow hard, the words tangling in my throat. I think. He tilts my chin, eyes searching mine. You don't have to do anything tonight. I just want you here. With me. Just try. My chest tightens as my mind flashes forward, imagining the night. The bed he has, the soft light, the quiet. But also the ceiling that doesn't creak the right way, the mirrors that won't fog correctly, the closet doors that won't line up. The first stirrings of panic take hold. You'll be safe, he murmurs, brushing his hand over my cheek. I promise. I take a trembling breath and nod. Okay, I'll try. Even as the words leave me, the creeping tension begins. By late evening, I'm still with him, laughing softly at the movie we watch, holding his hand, leaning against him while the city hums outside. It feels like peace. A false peace. Then the whispers begin. Midnight approaches, and the house in my mind awakens. Luke notices my discomfort, takes both my hands in his. You got this. I shake my head, panic tightening my chest. The pressure starts to mount. I can't. Not tonight. I'll feel it. He hesitates, then leans closer, soft but insistent. Babe, it's okay. Stay with me. I'm here to help. I bite my lip, trembling. Desire, trust, fear, each one pulling in opposite directions. The whisper grows into a growl, my mother's voice crawling through my head. I can almost feel it on my skin. The breaths come. I can't breathe all of a sudden. I stand abruptly. I have to go. Luke's expression softens, concern and confusion in his eyes. Okay, let me drive you at least. No, I shout. The feeling in my head grows louder, angrier. My heart flexes into a contortion I didn't think possible, making the room spin. I've never felt something like it before in my life. Mum was right. I had to go home. I leave without another word. Luke's cries of worry follow me out as I run. The journey home is frantic. Every step pounds in rhythm with the growing panic. I count them to stay focused. I can't see the ground properly, but I make out the shapes of the concrete squares. 2 steps in each, then to the next. I count the parked cars as I pass, starting again if I see a white one. No matter what I do, the house screams in my mind. I have to be home. I burst through the door, the familiar smells and quiet overwhelming me. It feels like stepping back into someone else's skin. I had to make it right. I start immediately to the bedroom. I knock on the wall 3 times. I strip the bed and remake it. Corners perfect. Pillows just touching. Sheets straight. Close window. Close door. Closet doors opened and shut in precise repetition. Curtains drawn, then half, then fully. Lights flicked on, off. Finger along the sill. Hallway. Count the floorboards creaks. 7, always 7. Bathroom. Fog mirror. Draw circle. The water, 2 minutes cold, 1 hot. Mirror wiped in careful circles until the streaks fade evenly. Kitchen. Boil the kettle. No bubbles or steam. Tap water running cold. Hot, cold. Everything in its place, exactly how it should be. The horrible feeling creeps up, inch by inch. It starts in my stomach, low and sour, climbing toward my throat. Mum's voice murmurs insistently in my head, that same hushed, rhythmic chant she used to whisper when I was little. Do it. Do it now. In the bedroom, as I prep for bed, I glance at the clock. It's almost midnight. The feeling should be fading by now, but it isn't. It's getting worse. What did I forget? The bed, the window, the wall, the closet, the mirror. The kitchen. The cup. It's still in the sink. I run downstairs, skipping the creaking floorboards. The house feels as if it's to swallow me. Every corner seems to lean closer, every shadow pulsing with that same insistent breath. I pull the cup from the sink and place it on the counter. 20 seconds. That's all. My vision blurs. My chest tightens. The air feels thick and syrupy. Something's pressing behind my eyes, something that wants out. My whole body vibrates with alien energy. Hoping the seconds are correct, I slide the cup into its final resting place for the night. Silence rushes in like a wave. The clock strikes midnight, and then the groan. That deep, familiar creak and pop from the roof, long and satisfied. The pressure eases. The dread fades. I make the ponderous steps up the stairs before sinking into my bed, exhausted but safe. For tonight, the house is calm. I didn't even notice my phone buzzing in my bag. Missed calls. Messages. His words spilling across the screen. Apologies if he'd seemed too forward, just wanting me to be okay. I passed out before I could reply. Morning comes in soft light, washing over the house. I lie still for a moment, listening. No creaks. No groans from the walls. The house is calm, obedient once again. I swing my legs over the side of the bed and start the day the only way I can. Knock the wall 3 times. Bed corners straightened, sheets smoothed. Pillows just touching. Window open. Door open. Closet doors opened and shut in precise repetition. Lights on and off in the sequence. Curtains drawn, then half, then fully. Aligning perfectly. Finger along the sill. Count the floorboards creaks. 7. Always 7. Fog the mirror. Circle. Run a shower. 2 cold, 1 hot. Wipe the mirror. The feeling ebbs slowly, inch by inch, until the rhythm of the ritual quiets the whispers in my mind. I finish in the kitchen with the final steps as I place the damned cup into the sink and wait for the groan. Mum's whispers fade, dissolving into the morning hum. The house is satisfied. I can finally breathe. Even then, I still feel as if I've forgotten something, a thread left hanging. A strange feeling for something I've done for decades, ever since I was a girl. That fear lingers, crawling along the edges of my mind like frost. I hold on to my determination. For now, that is enough. I glance at my phone, at the missed calls and concerned messages. I type back carefully, "I'm fine. Thank you." I stay home today, working on my hobbies and watching mindless videos online. The world feels too much for me today. I send a brief apology to Luke. He understands, wholeheartedly. By the end of the day, I am mentally wrecked, bracing myself for tomorrow and what work will demand. I prepare to perform my night routines when suddenly a knock comes from the door. Luke stands there, a box of chocolates in hand, smiling softly. "Mind if I come in?" He apologizes, and I reassure him it's not him at all. In fact, I wanted what he was thinking. "It's fine," I say. "It's something I'm used to. Hopefully, I'll fall out of fashion with it eventually. If you really need to leave, you can do so at any time. I won't try to hold you back." I smile faintly, taking the chocolates from him. "No, it's fine. It's all just new to me." "I understand," he says, his voice softening. "You rushed out so fast last night. I just wanted to make sure you're okay." He looks around the living room as if expecting to see ghosts that keep me tethered here. His eyes linger on the folded blankets, the lined-up coasters, the neat symmetry of the curtains. I can feel his quiet curiosity brushing against the edges of my order. "It's very," he starts, then hesitates, "particular." I offer, setting the chocolates down. He laughs nervously. I was going to say neat. But yeah, particular fits. The silence after his laugh feels heavy, but not unpleasant. He sits on the couch and I join him, close enough that I can smell the faint scent of cologne and coffee clinging to him. His warmth feels almost dangerous. "I hate seeing you like this," he says quietly. "So, Scared of being outside this place. I'm not scared, I reply. I can't ignore it. The house needs balance. It's always been that way. He watches me, searching my face for something. And what if, just once, you didn't do it? What if nothing happens? The air seems to thicken. My pulse kicks up. Luke, I whisper, please don't. He reaches for my hand, thumb brushing against my wrist. I'm not trying to push. I just don't want you to live in fear of... He glances around. This. I pull my hand away, gently. It's not fear. It's just how I do things. He exhales, frustrated but tender. You sound like a caretaker for something that doesn't exist. I smile faintly, though it doesn't reach my eyes. It's fine if you don't understand. Honestly, I'm so used to it that it doesn't bother me. The look on his face shifts, unease and annoyance. No, it definitely bothers you. I shake my head in disbelief. Sorry. Wait, no, that came out wrong. He adjusted himself and faced me. I just feel that, well, it doesn't sound like OCD, it's just a thing with this house. I continue to stare at him, uncomfortable. Maybe because of your mum. I feel the air in the room shift, colder. He said it so plainly, like he had peeled something open. My mum. I echo, my voice quiet. What about her? Luke hesitates, reading my expression. I mean, you said she made you do these things, right? Maybe you're just keeping them alive for her. He gives a half smile, trying to soften it, but the words feel sharp in the air. She's gone, Luke. I say flatly. I know, he sighs, rubbing his face. I didn't mean to sound rude. I just hate that you feel trapped by this. It's not about her. The words come out harder than I expect. I lower my gaze, twisting the fabric of my sleeve. It's the house. He leans forward. You talk like it's alive. Sometimes it feels that way, I murmur. It listens. It remembers. If I stop, it gets angry. There's a long pause. I can hear the refrigerator hum in the silence between us. Mum always said, the house doesn't like surprises. I murmur. Luke reaches for my hand again. I pull away again. I want to understand, he says gently. I really do. Maybe if I saw it, what you do at night. I shake my head immediately. No, it's private. It's not for anyone else. I don't have to touch anything, he says quickly. Just watch. Keep you company. Make sure you're okay. I can feel my chest tightening again, that creeping awareness of the house around us, the walls, the corners, the weight of it listening. But there's something in his eyes that's hard to refuse. Warmth, love. And you won't do anything? You'll let me do it? No trying to make me change things. Nope, I'm here for you. His smile melts me. Okay, I'll show you. I lead him up the stairs and through the hallway, my hands trembling slightly. The house feels different tonight, as if it's aware of him in its walls. Watching. The air seems stuffier, like the walls, like myself, are holding their breath. It starts here, I whisper, stopping by the open bedroom door. Luke nods, his expression soft, encouraging. I'll just watch, promise. I take a slow breath and begin. I walk in and stand by the bed. Knock the wall. 3 times. I strip the bed, then remake it. Bed corners straightened, sheets smoothed, pillows touching perfectly. Window and door closed. Check the closet. Check it again. Curtains drawn, then half, then fully. Finger along the sill. The motions are steady, automatic. Years of practice distilled into quiet precision. Luke stays silent. I can feel his eyes tracing every move I make. Count the floorboards creaks. 7, always 7. When I go to the mirror in the bathroom, he steps closer. I hesitate, the rhythm faltering for just a heartbeat. You okay? He whispers. Sure, I say, sharper than I mean to. I soften my voice. Sorry, we have to be quiet. It has to listen. He nods again, lips pressed together. I breathe on the mirror, draw the circle. Since I'm not showering, I use the tap. The water running cold for 2, then hot for 1. Wipe the mirror clean. The house creaks faintly, as if acknowledging me. By the time I reach the kitchen, I can feel the tension leaving my body, replaced by that strange, hollow calm. Luke follows, arms folded, uncertain. You do this every night? Yes. Kettle on, but stop before boil. The tap runs, cold, hot, cold. I take the cup from the sink, place it on the bench. Silence fills the room. Now I wait 20 seconds, then slide the cup to its final position. And voila. He nods. I don't know what I see in his face. I try to laugh it off, heat rising to mine. God, this is so embarrassing. You probably think I'm a freak or something. No, of course not. He steps behind me, wrapping his arms around tight. His warmth presses against me. I sigh, just a little. You have your quirks. That's fine. He murmurs. Thank you. I whisper. I reach for the cup, but his voice cuts in, gentle, curious. What if you didn't do that? I pause, frowning. It's not done yet. It has to go there. I point to the exact spot. I need to hear the creak of approval. The creak. Yeah, the roof creaks after I place the cup there. I go to move it, but his hands hold me still. Listen, he says. Just listen. He points upward. A long, groaning sound ripples through the ceiling. The familiar voice of the house. My stomach drops. No, that's wrong. It hasn't been placed yet. Babe, he says softly, smiling. It's what old houses do. He crosses to the sink and turns on the tap. Lets it run, then shuts it off. Watching him break the rhythm feels like watching an altar be defiled. My chest tightens. Wait for it, he says, checking his watch. At the 20-second mark, the house groans again, another low creak from above. He smiles, triumphant. See, I noticed your rituals involved water and taps. Those sounds, they're just pipes filling and draining. That's all. I want to believe him. I really do. For the first time in years, someone is here, in this house, and the walls haven't swallowed me whole. His warmth fills the space that's always felt so cold. Maybe I could believe him. You're right, I nod. It's just old pipes. Luke exhales, relieved, smiling that gentle smile of his. He kisses my forehead. Exactly. You deserve peace. Peace. The word feels strange. We go upstairs together. The house groans faintly as we climb, like it's shifting in its sleep. I tell myself it's just the wood settling, that it doesn't mean anything. I don't count the steps. I keep my eyes on Luke, on the way he turns back every few seconds to make sure I'm still there. In the bedroom, I hesitate at the door. The familiar pull of habit tugs at my chest. A need to fix the corners of the bed, to draw the curtains in perfect halves. Even though I've done it, it lingers still. Luke's hand finds mine, and the impulse falters. Hey, he murmurs. Just breathe. I do. For once, I breathe deeply and let it all out. We sit on the bed, close enough that I can feel the heat of his body next to mine. The quiet stretches between us, gentle and human. When he reaches up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, my breath catches. His hand lingers on my cheek, tentative, as though afraid to break something fragile. It's okay, I whisper, unsure if I'm saying it to him or myself. When he kisses me, it's slow, hesitant at first, like testing an old lock that hasn't been turned in years. Then warmer. His hands trace down my back, grounding me, reminding me I'm still flesh and blood, not a servant of walls and shadows. The house creaks once, but I ignore it. I close my eyes and let myself exist in this fragile, borrowed peace. We move together like it's something sacred. his breath against my neck, my hands clutching at him as if he's the only thing anchoring me to the world. It's quiet, tender, reverent. A soft rebellion against everything that's kept me chained here. When it's over, he holds me close. The warmth between us hums like a heartbeat. I rest my head on his chest, listening. I try to stay in that moment, to believe that this warmth, this closeness, can drown out everything else. That maybe I can finally belong to someone instead of it. But underneath the sheets, my pulse won't slow. The walls feel too close. The air hums, faintly. Not quite a sound, more like a vibration running through the bones of the house. I bury my face in Luke's shoulder, forcing myself to ignore it. To ignore the itch in my palms that wants to knock 3 times. To ignore the whisper that starts behind the walls, low and muffled, a voice I've spent years obeying. I hold him tighter, pretend I don't feel it. The night stretches on, heavy and warm. And when the pull of sleep finally begins to drag me under, that feeling doesn't fade. It builds, crawling beneath my skin, pooling in my chest. A pressure I can't release. Then, from somewhere deep within the house, a clock chimes. Midnight. The pressure grows beneath my skin, curling through my chest and up into my head. I try to focus on Luke's warmth, the heartbeat beneath my ear. I tell myself it's nothing, that I'm fine. I repeat it like a mantra. Then, I woke up. The room is quiet. The sun bears through the open curtains. My body feels tight, alien, bruised and exhausted, like I've been fighting in my sleep. My arms ache. My fingers throb. The faint smell of copper tingles my nose. I look down. My arms are bruised, 3 nails torn clean off. Blood covering my thumbs drips onto the sheets. Panic floods me as crimson stains bloom beneath me. I crawl forward, stomach churning, the metallic scent thickening with every inch. I reach the edge of the bed and see him on the floor. His body lies in impossible angles. His arms are shattered, bent in ways they shouldn't bend. His neck is twisted grotesque, like it had been gripped by some unrelenting force. His face is a mask of horror, eyes gouged clean, sockets glistening with dark red pulp. The blood is still warm, congealing. Tiny rivulets trail from the bed, soaking into the floorboards. The coppery scent is thick enough to taste. I crawl backwards in the bed, gagging. My stomach lurches violently. My hands shake uncontrollably as I touch my own arms, feeling the sharp pain, the proof of my own hands, my own body. My mind spins. How could I? I don't remember. My chest tightens again. I scream. Why? My voice cracks, echoing off the walls. Why? The tears come fast, hot and bitter, streaming down my cheeks. My fingers clutch at the sheets, the mattress. The sobs shake me to the bone. My voice echoes through the house, and the house answers. Knock. I freeze, heart hammering. Knock. I listen. Knock. I glance behind me, where I always start. I wait for another impact, even though I already know it won't come. I stumble from the bed, to his ruined body, my hands shaking as I try to gather myself. His blood sticks to my skin, the warmth of it grounding me in the horror of what I've done, what's been done. The smell is unbearable, metallic and sweet, clinging to the air, to me. I take the sheets from the bed and drape them over him, my hands trembling so violently I barely manage it. My knees buckle and I slump to the floor, staring at the ceiling, the walls, the shadows. My chest heaves. My mind screams. The house doesn't like surprises. I slowly pull myself from the floor and reach the back wall, still racked with sobs, my tears mixing with the blood on my face. I knock. 3 times. Story 8. He came back. I wasn't planning to write this, but after everything that happened, I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe getting it out will help. Maybe someone will tell me I'm not insane. It started last winter, when my brother called me out of the blue. We hadn't talked much since the accident, the one that killed his girlfriend. He was in the car too, barely made it out alive. He never liked to talk about it, and I didn't push. When he said he needed somewhere to stay for a while, I told him to come over right away. He sounded small, almost like a kid. The first week was normal enough. He mostly stayed in his room, quiet, polite. Said he was just tired. He didn't go out much except to buy cigarettes or flowers. Said he left them for her at the cemetery. I thought maybe it was part of his grieving process. Then the smell started. At first, I thought it was the plumbing. It was faint, a sour, musty odor that came and went. I cleaned the bathroom top to bottom, emptied trash, even scrubbed behind the fridge. But the smell kept creeping back, thicker every day. It got to the point where neighbors started complaining. My upstairs neighbor texted me asking if something died in the walls. I tried asking my brother if he noticed it. He just shrugged and said, "She doesn't like the window open." I didn't understand what he meant, and honestly, I didn't want to. He'd been talking to himself a lot lately. Late at night, I could hear him whispering through the wall, soft, affectionate words like, "It's okay, I'm here," and "Don't cry anymore." Sometimes I could have sworn I heard a woman's voice answer. Just a breath, a murmur, so faint I thought I was imagining it. The more I tried to ignore it, the worse everything felt. The air in the apartment grew heavy, damp. I'd come home from work and the smell would hit me before I even reached the hallway. Every time I asked him to at least air out his room, he'd get defensive. "Don't touch anything," he'd snap. "It's fine. She's fine." I thought he was losing his mind. A few days later, when he left for one of his visits, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I told myself I'd just open the window, spray some air freshener, maybe do a quick tidy up. Nothing invasive. But the second I opened his door, I almost threw up. The smell slammed into me, thick, sweet, metallic. The curtains were drawn tight. The air was humid, like something rotting had been trapped for weeks. Clothes were scattered everywhere. Old food containers. The floor was sticky in some places. But the worst part was near the bed. The wood there was dark, damp looking, as if something had seeped into it. My stomach turned when I saw the corner of a blanket move slightly, or maybe it just sagged. Either way, something was under there. I crouched down, grabbed the blanket with trembling fingers, and pulled. That's when I saw it. An arm. Pale. Stiff. The skin looked stretched, like paper over bone. I screamed and stumbled backward, my heart slamming so hard I couldn't breathe. For a few seconds, all I could do was stare. The smell made sense now. The whispers. The way he never left. He'd done it, he dug her up, he brought her home. My brain refused to process it. I ran for my phone, my hand shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. That's when I heard the front door creak. He was home. He stood in the doorway, eyes wide, his clothes damp from the rain. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he smiled, that empty, hollow smile I hadn't seen since the funeral. "You weren't supposed to go in there," he said quietly. Then louder, almost shouting, "She's still real. Don't say she's not." He lunged toward the bed, shielding it with his body, shouting at me not to touch her. I backed into the corner, crying, begging him to stop. I called the police, screaming into the phone that my brother had lost his mind, that there was a dead body in my apartment. He was sobbing now, clutching something invisible, whispering her name over and over. When the sirens finally grew louder outside, I thought it was over. Relief flooded me. The officers burst in, 2 of them, hands on their holsters. I pointed to the bed, yelling for them to look, to see what he'd done. But they just stared at me. One of them spoke softly, like I was a child. "Who are you talking to?" I turned to gesture toward my brother, but he wasn't there. The room was empty. The bed, though, the bed still had something underneath it. One of the officers knelt, lifted the blanket, and then froze. I'll never forget his face, because the body under the bed wasn't hers. It was him. My brother. His eyes were sunken, his mouth open like he'd died mid-breath. His skin was gray, mummified, caved in. I dropped to my knees, shaking my head, saying no, 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 because it couldn't be him. He was here. He had been here. He called me, moved in, ate breakfast with me, sat at the table every morning, talked to me. They pulled me away, but I kept screaming that he was alive, that he'd just been standing there. They said I'd been living alone for months. The landlord confirmed it. The neighbors never saw him. No one ever did. I dug him up myself. Somewhere in my mind, I guess I couldn't handle losing him. I told myself he called, that he came back. I cleaned his room, cooked for him, heard him talking through the wall. But he never came back. Sometimes at night, when it's quiet and the heater hums, I still hear him whispering through the wall. His voice is soft, almost kind. Thank you for letting me stay. Story 9. They reach out through my reflections. Hello, everyone. I am not a speculative person. The paranormal has never held a spot in my mind for more than a fleeting moment. My life is built on practicality and cemented in reality. But recently, that foundation has cracked and I don't know where else to turn. No one I've reached out to has believed me. They think I made this up. But how could I? Why would I? This doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe to your eyes it will. Some months ago, a family friend of mine, who I was close to during my childhood, disappeared. Right off the face of the earth. No explanation. Granted, I wouldn't be the one who would receive such an explanation, but still, she was a person who the rest of the world noticed was gone. She held a job serving the local community, and everyone around town knew her by name. Her once loud apartment, filled with the sounds of her singing or the smells of her cooking, became still and silent. The type of silence you hear after a deep snowfall. It was unnatural and seemingly unexplainable. So much so that, in only the span of a day, her neighbors were knocking feverishly at her door to check on her. No answer. No noise. No sign of anything even breathing within. They called the police for a welfare check, urging them that something must be wrong, even though it had only been a day since her silence. They forced the door open a couple hours later. Within her apartment, they found nothing. Not a trace of her. Not even a loose strand of hair, dirty dishes, or anything that pointed to her being here recently. Just her pictures, furniture, and her clothes were there. Remnants of her existence that were the only sign of her life being lived within those walls. No one had seen her leave since the silence fell. The cameras in the hallway of her apartment building showed her enter the day before like normal. She never left again. Her place was on the 15th floor. The fire escape is enclosed with cameras. She never came out from the apartment, according to the recordings. No windows were found opened. There was no body. Not even one splattered on the street below. Roughly around 2:30 p.m. she was erased from this world. That was 4 months ago. No one has heard from her since. Her family has moved their search out of town now, thinking she must have left or escaped some unfortunate fate. Her things in the apartment were moved to storage. The whole place was being cleaned and freshly painted to provide a home for someone new. It seemed like just a slightly mysterious disappearance, right? But still plausible in some regards. That all changed when the letter was pushed through. It's branded itself on me now. I only hope someone out there knows how to help. One night, in the dark hallway of her floor, a small letter was pushed through from under the door of the abandoned apartment. It was addressed to me. Her friend Jake, who had been painting the place, dropped it off that same day. He explained that when he found the letter, he had hoped that it was her who came back to leave it for me. Hoping for some news of her, he immediately went to the landlord and asked to see the camera feeds to see who left the letter. His heart dropped when he saw the recording. I almost didn't believe it, until I saw it myself. In the grainy footage, all that was seen was the letter being pushed from underneath the closed apartment door. After seeing the tape, Jake asked the landlord if anyone else besides him had a key. The landlord assured him that no one could have gotten in there. It was impossible. As impossible as her disappearance. They reviewed the camera feeds for the days and weeks before, in the times when someone could have gotten in unawares, but the only people seen going in and out were her family and friends, who were all seen to leave. The letter was in her writing. Anyone that lived in this community could tell. Small, neat words were written on the outside, right in the center of the pale white envelope. This is what it said. For Thomas. Something to remind me that our fears and doubts can doom us. We hold the key to the doors of memory. We can lock the haunted ones away. The tone was all wrong. She had never spoken like that before. I should have waited. But in my anticipation to know more of this new voice she spoke in, I quickly opened the letter. A disclaimer. Because I have nowhere else to turn to, I have written what was enclosed below. However, before you read on, I need to warn you. Once you read her words, there is no turning back. It becomes real. You begin to pass by it. Out of your peripheral vision, it peaks. I am not sure if it will affect you as it has affected me, but I need all the answers I can get. I can't take it anymore. Someone else needs to understand. This is the line you should not cross. Letter from under the door. You drive down a busy road cutting through an old wooded place. It is winter and the trees have lost their canopy. With that gone, they also lose their ability to shade us from the pain that they obscure. You see it now as you rush past the sleeping boughs. A place you remembered from your childhood. For a fleeting second, it's there, but you move too fast and it's gone from view. The image of it lingers in your thoughts. You believe that place wasn't even real, just a combination of memories that melded together into one blurry whole. An amalgamation of different experiences attaching themselves to that place. Like your subconscious was cataloging those memories within that lost building. You haven't thought about it in a while. It usually comes back to you through the hazy mist just before sleep overtakes you, or when you awake for no reason in the middle of the night. You can see the doors to that building, the lights flashing behind the glass. The silhouettes of long-forgotten people dancing on the window panes. Were they running? Did it get them? It has been long since you ran beside them, but you remember how they called your name. Their smiles flash before you. You see their faces now in your windshield. You quickly look behind you to see if they are in the car with you. They caught you now. The car meets an immovable object. You meet your fate. There is no movement for you now. Only the wind blowing through the trees. Emerald fingers begin to grow from branches. The fingers turn to hands. The hands hold you back forever in the memories of another. You look out from the windows of that forgotten place and see them pass by. You pound at the doors, calling out to them. They do not hear you. See you soon. End of letter. Through every window, I see the shadows standing. They watch me move, their hands on the panes. No one else sees them. They have no eyes. If you look too closely, they begin to move. I haven't slept in many days. My eyes hurt after I finished reading it. No one else has been able to read those words. Everyone I show the letter to just sees a jumble with no discernible meaning. They think I've made it up, but yet every reflection has been infected. I don't know anything about the place mentioned in the letter, a place of forgotten things, hidden behind trees. It's too vague. It could be anywhere. But I know that the answers must lie there. I see the thing's fingers on my screen now as I type this. Someone else needs to know. Someone else needs to know I was here, that I existed and this thing is trying to take me. I only hope you never see it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If anyone has heard of a place like this, please reach out. The shadows haven't tried anything yet. They just stare. They have no eyes, but I can feel them boring into my soul. It's becoming cold. I don't think I have much time left. Soon I'll know where they took her. Story 10. The Man Who Waited. I've never been the kind of man who does much. Not because I can't, but only because I don't care enough to try. It's too much effort to do things, and I want to do it, and I tell people I will. But the thought of actually doing something exhausts me. People call me smart, say I have potential. That word used to make me feel proud. Now it just feels like an insult with manners. Potential doesn't really mean anything when you never actually do something with it. My days blend together. The glow of the TV, the buzz of the fridge, the quiet hum and drone of nothing important, just brain rot. I drink because it fills the silence. I eat because it's something to do and fills in the gaps of my day. The couch has a permanent imprint of my body. It probably knows me better than anyone else in my life. Sometimes I drift off into a fantasy about what I could have been if I'd actually followed through on something. A degree, a career, a version of myself that didn't give up halfway. But those thoughts never last long. I get upset at myself because I know I'm never going to actually do anything about it. These thoughts sting too much, like a paper cut you keep reopening. So I bury them. I let the noise drown them out. And every night ends the same. I sit in the flicker of a screen, half drunk, half asleep, all the while pretending I don't feel myself rotting. The first time it happened, I didn't even notice. A commercial ended, and the TV went black, and all I could see was just a reflection of me, lazy and slouched, beer bottle in hand. But for a second, my reflection didn't match. It sat straighter. Its shoulders weren't caving in. It looked awake, alive. I blinked, and everything lined up again. I chuckled to myself, thinking I was just tired. But the next night, it happened again. And this time, the reflection was smiling. I keep catching him, and it's not just flashes anymore. He lingers. The TV screen goes dark after a show ends, and he's just there. Same clothes, same couch, but something is off. His eyes are clearer, his posture is steady, and there's something calm about him. He's confident in a way I forgot how to be. The worst part is he doesn't look unnatural. He looks right. He looks like what I wish I were. The next night, I sat closer to the TV, trying to get a closer look. He can't be me. Could I be him? The screen faded into black, and he was already staring back at me. Our eyes met through the black glass, and I swear I felt something press against the back of my head, like a hand pressing me closer to the screen. The TV hummed faintly, and for a split second, I heard him breathe. Not me. Him. A clean, steady inhale and exhale. He disappeared, and I heard myself wheezing. I was struggling to breathe, not because I was afraid, but because that is me. I've been overweight for a while. I don't know the last time I actually worked out. How did I become this? Angered towards myself, I shut the TV off and sat there in the dark for hours, listening to the sound of my own breath. I think it was the next day. I'm not sure. Time blurs. I don't have any kind of schedule, so it's hard to tell. I don't even open the curtains. That split second of effort is a waste for me. To me, it's unfathomable to open a curtain, to wash my bed sheets, and clean up my Coke cans and wrappers. The air tastes like dust, copper, stale grease, and cigarette ash. The carpet sticks to my feet. My body feels heavier every day. It's not only the fat weighing me down, but the lack of muscle to even hold myself upright. He's getting worse. He's starting to scare me. He's everywhere. Sometimes I catch my reflection in random things. The microwave door, a beer bottle, the glass of the picture frame across the room, and every time I do, I look worse. Gray skin, dull and sunken eyes. It feels like the color is being siphoned out of me. But him, he looks better, clearer. While I fade, he brightens. It's like he's stealing the parts of me that used to matter. God, he looks beautiful. What is he, and why is he tormenting me with my failures, leaving me with a lifeless husk? Please stop. I've started catching him moving before I do. A blink that comes sooner than my own. A turn of the head I never made. One time, I yawned out of exhaustion, and he didn't. He just stared at me with this mild disgust. It wasn't hate, just disappointment. That face of disgust enraged me. I tried to yell at it to defend what little pride I had left, but the sound that came out of me was broken, wheezing, almost alien. I can't sleep anymore. I keep the TV on all night so the room won't go dark enough to reflect. I refuse to see him. For my sanity, I can't see him. Why am I being cursed by my failures? I now stay in my closet. It's the only place where there are no reflections. Time passes, but I check the time on my phone accidentally, and I see him there, half smiling, patiently, like he's waiting for me. The lines between us are thinning. I can feel it. I woke up in my bed. I did things I don't remember doing. The dishes are clean. The trash is gone, and there's a trash liner in the can. The fridge is stocked. There's a clock in the living room. I don't understand because I don't have the strength to move, but somehow things are getting done. The next day, the bathroom mirror is spotless, except for one perfect handprint that isn't mine. It's smaller, leaner, steadier. I blink, and the clock jumps ahead by hours. Sometimes I wake up with wet hair, wearing different clothes. I haven't showered in years. Last night, I woke up and saw him sitting up in the reflection of the black TV while I lay still. His eyes were open, watching, aware. I'm not sure which of us is real. I tried to talk to him. At first, just to fill the silence. Asking if he has been cleaning everything, who he is, and why he's torturing me. He never answered me. I then asked, "Are you a demon? Am I in hell?" He didn't respond. He just tilted his head slowly, deliberately, almost like he was trying to figure me out. I screamed, "Answer me!" His expression shifted. Not sadness, not pity, just disappointment. Like a parent watching their child throw their life away. That look broke me. I screamed at him, told him he was nothing. I punched the mirror until my knuckles split, and I watched the blood trickle down the glass. He didn't flinch. He raised his hand. It was clean. His hand had veins with perfectly clear skin and steady fingers. He smiled. That smile never left my mind. It's been quiet lately. I think he's giving me space. Or maybe I'm too numb to care. I dragged a chair in front of the mirror and sat there. There was no yelling this time. I told him I was sorry. Sorry for wasting time. Sorry for wasting my life away. I told him I didn't hate him. I just wanted to be him. It was envy. Could I ever be him? He appeared. I smiled at him. For the first time, he smiled back. For a moment, I thought that was peace. But then I blinked, and his smile stayed. He turned to two children who ran in behind him. I looked behind me, worried that someone's random kid barged in. But there was nothing there. I faced the mirror again. Those two children were his. They were what I could have had. His wife came into view after and kissed his cheek. All the while, he never broke his gaze towards me. That should have been me. Oh God, why did I do this to myself? Why did I do this to myself? I'm looking at him tearing. Tearing turned into crying, and then wailing. He's everything I never was. He looks like someone who tried. I wiped the tears off my face to see him again. To see my failures incarnate. He was still staring at me. His lips tightened. His eyes narrowed. I could see it then, the truth burning in his gaze. He was disgusted. I whispered, "Please, don't look at me like that." He didn't move. His disgust deepened, not cruel but final, like he'd already decided what I was, a shell of wasted years, a man who never lived. Then, for the first time, he stepped away. The light behind him grew brighter. It was a softer and warmer glow, like how the morning sunlight should feel. I reached out, pressing my hand to the glass, but all I felt was cold. He walked away, and the moment he left the frame, the mirror went dark. Days pass, and now, when I look, there's nothing there. Not even me. Just the faint shape of a man who used to exist, waiting for a life he never earned. I've done so little that even my dreams abandoned me. I'll never become him. I am who I've become. There's no fixing the 40 years of what I chose to be. It's too late.